Good luck.
Merhaba arkadaşlar, hepiniz IEFT Talks webinarlarına hoş geldiniz. Bugün İngiltere'nin en iyi üniversitelerinden University of Kent'e başvuru şartları ve kabul koşullarıyla İngiltere'de eğitimi Emma ve Olcay Bey'den dinliyor olacağız. Lütfen sorularınızı questions kısmından sormayı unutmayın. Yes, Emma, the stage is yours now.
Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. Good afternoon, and thank you very much for joining us today. I'm very happy to be with you for the next hour to tell you a little bit more about sort of the application process we have here at the University of Kent. Before I start with the main presentation, I thought I'd just sort of get the panelists to introduce themselves. So my name is Emma, and I am the International Officer for Turkey here at the University of Kent. And I'm joined by one of our former students from Kent, Olcay.
Yeah, and my name is Olcay, and I am a former student of the University of Kent, and also we are official representative of the University of Kent, and I am the founder of Koç Yurtdışı Eğitim Danışmanlığı, and thank you for joining our webinar.
Perfect. So without further ado, I'm going to share my screen and hopefully it will work. Let's just see if we get this right. Okay. So hopefully you can all see that okay, and you can still hear me. So in today's session, we're very much going to be focusing on university applications. And what we've done is really focus on information that we think you need to know when you are applying to the University of Kent. We'll briefly sort of start by telling you about the different application routes available for both undergraduate and postgraduate students. And then we'll go into a little bit more detail about the application form. So just to give you a bit more information about the documents you need to provide, references or portfolio requirements. And then we'll spend a lot of time focusing on personal statements, because I know this is an area of real interest to many of you. And we'll give you some useful information about what to do when you are writing your personal statement. And we'll have some top tips from our admissions, but also former students as well. So without further ado, I'll sort of make a start and sort of begin with give you more information about the application route itself. So for students applying to the University of Kent, you have two ways of submitting your application. If you are an undergraduate student, you can apply through either the Ucas system or you can apply directly to Kent itself. And I will go on to both of those channels in a little bit more information. If you are a postgraduate student, the main route for you is the direct application through the Kent website. So firstly, I thought it's useful to kind of start off by giving you more information about Ucas. What exactly is it? So Ucas stands for Universities and Colleges Admission Service. And basically, it's a centralized service that's used throughout the UK. And it's predominantly used by undergraduate students who are applying to higher education institutions here in the UK. It is available to both UK students, but also international students as well. And one of the good things about the platform is it allows you to make and manage multiple applications at the same time. So if you are thinking about applying to multiple universities here in the UK for your undergraduate studies, then UCAS might be an option for you to consider when completing your application. Because it's an online platform, it can be accessed anytime from anywhere in the world. So all you just need is your internet connection, and then you're available to go and to sort of start your applications. And the UCAS system is not just about actually applying to the universities. There's a lot more information on there that some students may not be aware of. There is a matchmaking service that basically puts you in touch with the universities to find out which is the best fit for you. But there's also lots of help and support on there. They have career counsellors available, but also information about every university in the UK, from ranking to subject specific kind of entry requirements. So if you are still thinking about what universities to select for your undergraduate studies, then actually having a look at the resources available on UCAS is definitely advisable, because it's a really good way to get lots of information about your choices to see which one would work best for you. So a little bit more sort of practical, sort of the practicalities of UCAS itself. You can apply up to 5 courses. So as I mentioned, it does allow you to submit multiple applications. Because it allows you to apply to multiple universities, there is an element of invisibility when it comes to your application. So if you do apply to different universities, they can only see the application to their university. So Kent won't know what other applications you've submitted to other UK universities. The UCAS system will ask you to sort of prioritize your choices, and you'll be asked to sort of select kind of your insurance choices or your firm, which is obviously your preferred choices. So it does allow you a little bit of flexibility in terms of which choice you wish to select from your 5 that you have made. As well as many of the undergraduate courses. If you are applying for any of the Kent Foundation integrated programs, so the programs that offer a foundation year as part of the studies, you can apply for that through the UCAS system. And there is one master's program that you have to use UCAS to apply for. So if you are looking to apply for the MA in social work, that has to go through the UCAS system, not directly through to the Kent website. The last 2 things to be aware of with UCAS, there is an application fee that you would need to pay if you are submitting through the system. If you are applying to just one course, then you will be expected to pay £22. If you are applying for between 2 to 5 choices, the application fee increases slightly to £26.50. So all students would need to pay this application fee when submitting their UCAS application. And one of the final thing, and probably the most key thing about UCAS, is that it does have an early deadline. So if you are applying to UCAS, you do need to submit your applications by the 26th of January next year. So you don't have too much longer to complete your application. And this is really important. So if you do miss this deadline, then what would happen is your application would then be processed later, potentially through the clearing system, which does mean that you may have not being able to guarantee a space on your chosen courses. So in order to sort of be in a good place and be in a good position to be able to get your preferred choices, it's always advisable to apply before the 26th of January deadline. So as I mentioned at the beginning, applying to UCAS is not the only way that you can apply to the University of Kent. So if you are an undergraduate student and you never used UCAS before and you don't intend to use UCAS in the future, you can apply through the Kent website. And what you will see from the screenshots here is that every course page we have on the Kent website has an Apply Now button. So whether you're applying for the bachelor's or the master's, you will see the big Apply Now button, which will allow you to progress onto the Kent application portal so you can apply directly to Kent themselves. So as well as undergraduate courses, if you're applying for postgraduate or even PhD applications, all of them are submitted through our website. So it's relatively easy and straightforward. One of the great things about applying to directly to Kent is there's no application fee. So you don't need to pay an application fee when you are submitting an application directly to Kent. And what you will notice is that some of the deadlines for applications is slightly later than the UCAS deadline. So if you're applying to undergraduate course directly to Kent, then you have until the 30th of June to do so. If you're applying for a postgraduate taught master's, it's the 31st of July. And if you're applying for a PhD, there is no fixed deadline because there are multiple intakes for that particular course, but you should apply no later than 3 months before your intended start date. So please do refocus on these deadlines to make sure that you give yourself enough time to be able to apply for your chosen courses before the deadlines actually pass. So when you are applying to Kent, what information do you need to do and what does the application form actually ask you to provide? So whether you're applying for undergraduate, postgraduate masters or postgraduate research or the PhD programs, you would be asked to provide very similar information. And it goes without saying that you should be prepared to provide a lot of personal information. So things such as your name, contact details, date of birth, if you have any disabilities or medical conditions that you need the university to be aware of, all of this information will be requested to you when you are completing the application form. In terms of qualifications, you will be asked to provide details of all the qualifications you have up to this point of your application. So whether that be sort of high school, college, or whether it be a bachelor's or master's that you've already done, you will need to provide information about the qualifications that you have achieved up to that point. For many students, particularly who are applying for undergraduate courses or those who are applying for postgraduate masters, in many instances, the students are applying to their course whilst they are studying. And this is absolutely fine. It's not a problem to apply for the course while you are completing your studies. What you will need to do is to provide all the documentation up to that point. So all of the transcripts from your previous academic years, and provide evidence of sort of projected grades. So provide sort of, in your reference letters, your academics can mention that you're on course for a certain projected GPA. So you will need to provide documents up to that point. And then once you have completed your studies, you'll then be asked to provide the final transcript and the final degree certificate in order to finalise your place here at Kent. So it's important to remember that you will be asked to provide the final transcripts when they are available. Another thing you'll be asked to provide information about is your experience and activities. So things such as any extracurricular involvement, any achievements or interests that you have, but also think about kind of work or experience outside of your academic sort of schooling system. So whether you have any work experience, whether you're a volunteer for a local charity, all of these areas can be included under sort of the extracurricular activities and experience part of the application. As I mentioned, you will also be asked to provide references. So for undergraduate students, this is usually 2 academic referees. For postgraduate students, this is 1 academic reference and either a second academic reference or a work experience reference, very much dependent on sort of whether you have that work experience or not. And when you are selecting references and your referees, it's so important to make sure that you choose the right person. You need to think about someone who knows you very well, not just on the academic side, but also can attest to your character. So they need to focus on things such as any predicted grades, whether you are suitable for that to study that particular course, and what experience or sort of voluntary activities you have that's relevant to this particular subject area. So the referees are so important. It does play a really vital part in the assessment of applications. So when our admissions team and the academic schools look at your application, they will look at not just your qualifications, but also the references as well. So it is so important to make sure you choose the right people. As well as the references, some of our courses will also have an additional portfolio requirement. These are courses traditionally in sort of the architecture or in the arts field. So if you're studying things such as multimedia, journalism, English language, sort of creative writing, or any of the architectural programs, they will all have portfolio requirements that you will need to submit once at the time of when you're applying. What I would recommend doing is on each of the course pages, there is a section on portfolio. So if you are required to provide one with your application, you will see all of the details about what you actually need to include and the format the portfolio takes. Sometimes it can be on a digital form in terms of a video or an online kind of website. Sometimes it can be in the form of sort of a written document, PDF or Word document, for example. So each portfolio will have a different requirement. So definitely make sure you check the course pages to make sure that portfolio that you provide meets the requirements of that particular course. So as well as providing all of that sort of information, one of the key aspects of your application is very much about the personal statement. And this often is such a massive part of the application process, whether you're applying for undergraduate or postgraduate. Every student applying to Kent will need to provide a personal statement. And what exactly is a personal statement? Well, it sounds obvious, but a personal statement is something that supports your application to study at a university. It is a chance for you to explain why you want to study a particular subject, and what skills and experience you have that show your passion for your chosen field and why you would be the best student that the university can select for this particular, course or field of study. It's important to remember it's a chance for you to showcase why you would be a great student. For up until this point, many universities, they often just see qualifications and documents. They don't get to know who you are as an individual. So this is your chance to really showcase you to the university. One of the key things to remember is that a personal statement has to be within a certain capacity. You only have a limited amount of space to be able to articulate why you are the best student for this particular course. You can write up to 4,000 characters of text, which is roughly around 47 lines, which I'm sure you would all agree is actually not that long to be able to kind of really showcase why you are the perfect student. And firstly, it's important to know why a personal statement is important. Again, just to reiterate, the university doesn't know you. So this is a chance for you to showcase you as an individual. For many universities, often a lot of the courses can be very much oversubscribed. So a personal statement is a great way for the universities to assess a student's suitability for the course. So it's a great way for you to stand out from the crowd and showcase why that university should select you for that particular course. There are no university entrance exams for the University of Kent. So again, the personal statement is a way of us assessing the student's suitability for their chosen course. And it's not just reviewed by the admissions, but also the academic staff. And these are the people that actually will be teaching your courses. So it's a great opportunity for you to impress them, the people that will directly be teaching you for your undergrad or your postgraduate course. It's important to remember that the statement needs to showcase that you've researched the course and you know that you've made the right decision. It's a good opportunity to showcase your writing skills. And also it's a really good experience for you. It's a great way to practice writing for future job applications. So again, it's a really good sort of life skill to be able to do as you progress your education and career journeys ahead. So where do you start when you're thinking about personal statements? So a few things to be aware of before you even pick up a pen or open up your laptop. The first thing to be aware of is starting early and knowing your deadlines. I cannot stress enough the importance of this point. As I mentioned right at the beginning in the first few slides, whether you're applying for undergraduate or postgraduate courses, each of them do have deadlines that you do need to meet. So it's important to know these straight away so then you can plan your time effectively to make sure that you get everything ready and you complete your application before that deadline. Again, checking the university websites is always a really good place to start. So not only knowing about the deadlines, the course requirements, the portfolios, but also finding out about what the course actually entails and what key skills that you would need to have in order to get a place on that particular course. So you need to know what you need to be mentioning in terms of kind of the key attributes. It's important to remember that this is not an essay, so it is a very short statement. So you need to plan ahead to make sure that you have the structure and you have everything that you need to include in that short space of time. It will take you a few drafts. Many students do go through multiple drafts as they try to sort of enhance and sort of be more concise with their statements. It is important, and one really good tip that a previous student mentioned to me was actually saving the different versions they go through, because many times you might cut something and then the next time you look at it you wish, oh, I want to include that again, and you can't go back. So it's important, so when you do refresh and you do update your statement each time, keep the versions, because it's always good to have them to hand in case you need them. Think about actually where you want to do your personal statement. It sounds obvious, but finding a quiet place to work is so essential. You know, somewhere that you, without distractions, and you can really focus and think about what actually works best for you. Sometimes making notes on a bit of paper, sometimes, you know, writing things down on your laptop, whatever works for you. It's just about finding the best fit and how you can really focus on this key part of the application. So now I want to sort of bring in some of our top tips that we have when it comes to completing the application. And firstly, I want to sort of start with thinking about structure. So as I mentioned, you only have a limited space to be able to articulate why you are applying for these particular courses. So it's important to make sure that you structure your personal statement to make sure you've included all of the key elements that the universities look for. So this kind of really handy diagram really sets out the 5 key areas of a personal statement, but also how they are apportioned in terms of the structure itself. So what we do find is that 70% of a personal statement covers 3 large areas. It covers things such as your introduction. So you need to start off by explaining, what subject area you're applying for and why. Bringing your academic interests. So this is where you demonstrate the research, why this course, you've selected this course, and why, what experience you have academically that will help you to develop in this particular area. And you also need to bring in your activities and your experience. So things that you've done both in college or school, but also outside of school, and why this is related to your chosen field of study. The remaining 30% then links into your transferable skills and personal qualities, thinking about, this is where the personality bit comes into it, giving more information to the admissions team about what skills you have and what you would bring and how you would contribute to the university life. And then the conclusion will essentially be sort of summing up of your statement, and again, reiterating why you want to study at that particular sort of subject area. So now I want to kind of drill down a little bit into some of these areas to kind of give you more information and again, sharing some of our really key tips that what we found that makes the best personal statements that students should be looking to include. When you are thinking about your academic interests, you need to think about what courses you want to study and why you want to do it at that particular level. So whether you're doing an undergraduate level or postgraduate taught or a PhD level. So you need to think about things such as why you enjoy this particular subject. What have you done in the past in terms of your current studies or your previous studies, and why you want to develop that further in the future? Have you done any sort of academic projects or something within, an assignment within your previous studies that are directly relevant to the subject you wanted to do at the university? So think about things such as, an assignment, an essay, or even a research project that you think it really showcases your academic interests in this subject area. Thinking about sort of, your interest in this particular area and particularly focusing on career ambitions as well, and what you hope to achieve from doing your studies in terms of career progression afterwards. So once you've thought about your academic interests, you then need to bring in your activities, your extracurricular activities, things that you've done either inside or outside of school or college or university that's directly relevant to your course of study. So experience can be anything, and this is the really great thing, is that there's no kind of hard and fast rule when it comes to extracurricular activities. So examples could be things such as extended projects or group work assignments during your studies. It can be voluntary work outside of college. It can be work experience, whether it be paid or internships, but also things such as field visits, trips, research projects that you've done, or anything outside, outside of these areas that you think is relevant to the course of study that you're looking to do. So it's important to think about making the most of these activities, really showcasing your involvement, but also really focusing on what you've gained from them and why they are relevant to your course. The important thing to remember is the relevance. And I think that's where many people do kind of fall down, is not bringing it back to the course of study and showcasing why this is relevant to your selected areas. And again, thinking about sort of activities, it's not just about kind of volunteering or internships. It can be things such as involvement in sports or music clubs or societies. Have you held a position of responsibility? Like, were you the leader of your debate team at college or university? Do you have hobbies and interests that are directly relevant or showcase certain skills that you would need to complete your degree? So again, thinking sort of outside the box a little bit and sort of looking at different areas that you can include in your statement. Hobbies and interests are a really good way to showcase not only kind of your experience, but it also gives the admissions team insight into who you are as an individual and what motivates you. So again, think about things that you've done that you enjoy, that really showcase you and your skills and how you can use them in your personal statement. One of the key things to bear in mind when you are showcasing your involvement in activities and sort of extracurricular work that you've done, really focusing in not just on the activity itself, but also the transferable skills and the experiences that you have gained and how that would be useful to your course that you wish to study. So when we say transferable skills, what exactly do we mean by that? So looking at things such as interpersonal skills, whether it be working independently, team working, communication, confidence, organizational skills, working to deadlines or problem solving. All of these key areas a student would need in some way, regardless of what course they are studying, whether it is undergraduate or postgraduate. All of these attributes are something that every student needs to have. So what you will need to do is remember that when you are showcasing your activities, really draw on these areas to really kind of showcase why you possess them. And that, again, would make you the perfect student for the particular course that you're studying. So what I have done, which I think, I hope that you would find useful, is the next few slides, I've given you some examples of how you can make the most of any experience you've had and really bringing in the transferable skills. So these are some examples that we've had from previous personal statements. And we've kind of showcased, you know, areas that are less impressive in terms of a personal statement and how the perfect statement really showcases the transferable skills and really highlights that to the university. So this particular student, firstly, has 2 weeks work experience working in a local accountancy office. And they said it was a very enjoyable and interesting experience. Okay, so that's great, but it actually, you know, doesn't really tell us much about what they learned, what skills they've gained, and how that can be used for their studies. So rather than just focusing on the real basic kind of information about what experience you have, really draw on that and really highlight some of the areas that you've developed. So a really got a model answer would be things such as their experience of working at a local accountancy gave them the opportunity to develop their attention to detail and really emphasize the importance of working in a team. And bringing it back to the university, they've said they look forward to employing these practical skills during their time of their studies. So again, hopefully this will kind of give you an idea about how to bring in those key skills from the experience and again, bringing it back to the university that you wish to study at. This example is a really good one to showcase how you can use your hobbies in your personal statement. So this person, in their spare time, they enjoy running and they're a member of a local sports club. Okay, great. How can you use that in your personal statement? Well, a model answer would be things such as taking part in the athletic competitions at their local sports club has taught them about determination, commitment, and discipline. And they believe these are important qualities to help them get the most of their time at the university. So again, showcasing their experience, the key skills and the transferable skills they've gained, and again, how they help to use that during their time at the university. And the last one, in terms of kind of giving you examples, is about whilst we are keen to see, you know, you involved with lots of activities, it's important to remember to include activities that are relevant to your course, that really support your personal statement, as opposed to including it for the sake of including it. So what do we mean by this? So this student has said that they chose to study history at high school. It was an enjoyable subject, which taught them lots of important facts about the past. Okay, it doesn't really give us much in terms of them as an individual or why that is important in terms of their course study options. So rather than just sort of including that, what they should have done is maybe said, like, The study of history has increased their confidence and their ability to study independently, research effectively, and develop logical arguments. Again, all of those key things are needed when you are studying at a university. So hopefully this has given you an idea about some things to include, some model answers, and things to sort of, to pull out in terms of kind of really showcasing your experience. I want to bring in Olcay now, because I think he has obviously gone through this process himself as a student, but also working as an education consultant as well. What sort of top tips would you give to Turkish students who are looking to apply to Kent this year?
All right. And I would say for students and to cover some things for personal statements. And first thing, they need to keep their mind and they need to create the draft, I think. And they can create the draft without any character limits, I think. And as an educational consultant, we suggest that they can write with their words and sentences, and after that they can get limitation according to the university's limitations. And generally we suggest that they don't need to exceed the 4,000 characters in their personal statements, because for postgraduate students and they are trained to write more. But in Ucas system they have the error system, and they can warn them not to exceed the 4,000 characters. And we suggest that firstly to get the draft of the personal statements. After that they can, for the second tip, we can say the don't rush for their personal statements, because it's taking time to write personal statements. That's why it can take time, maybe 1 month, maybe 2 months, and according to the students. But it works, taking break sometimes and try it again. And maybe third tips would be you can use the perfect words and sentences, and you can use some synonyms. And for example, instead of using the do, and you can use accomplish. And for example, you can use presume rather than think. And for example, instead of saying the important, you can mention significant. And these type of things are quite important to write as an academic area. And you can use some programs in your personal statements and to find the synonyms of the words. And sometimes we suggest many Turkish students would like to use Google Translate, and we have some other synonym websites like Oxford Dictionaries, and you can use these type of websites. And it's very useful to paraphrase your sentences and to change some personal ideas, and without giving any mistakes. And the fourth one, maybe you can concentrate your strengths, and you can mention about your experiences related to your background, and you can mention your knowledge about the major that you like to apply. And also it's quite important to mention what you will do after graduation. And it's quite important to become the differentiation from the other students. And that's why you can mention your achievements and activities and projects, and you can prove yourself you are the best candidate for the university. And sometimes some students would like to mention everything, but you have a limitation. That's why you need to focus with your sentences related to major you want to apply. And also you need to mention that why you want to study in the UK, and also why the University of Kent. It's quite important to mention these things. And also we suggest that 1 page or 1.5 page is enough to mention your ideas. And also some of tips would be, maybe we can say 5th one, and you can start with the very good sentences. We say opening sentence of the personal statement, but you shouldn't take very long. And some students have this mistake, and they can write many things about the opening sentence, but don't do this, please. And you can do like some funny things and interesting things, unusual, but don't mention everything in opening sentence. And 6th one, maybe we suggest maybe one of the most important one, be unique. And if you will be unique, and I think it will be much better to mention your ideas. And we suggest you shouldn't read any personal statements before you write your personal statement, because sometimes you can be affected from other personal statements. You can get some copy and not writing your ideas clearly. That's why please be unique. And you should be honest, I think, because sometimes we see some exaggeration in the personal statements, and like I was managing 3,000 people in the events and like type of things, and don't exaggerate, and but be mentioning your ideas and activities, but be honest. And another one, maybe proofreading is important, and you can mention your personal statement to your educational consultant, and also you can mention to your friends and your tutors, and maybe you can check their ideas, and after that you can finalize your personal statement. And we suggest some things on the personal statements. That's why you can contact us and we can get some proofreadings. And you need to write your personal statements many times, and after that we are trying to no mistakes in the personal statements. Sometimes it would be some small mistakes, but the most important one, to mention your ideas clearly, and also why you are the best candidate for the university. And if you mention these things, I think you are one of the best candidates for the University of Kent. And I studied in business management master's degree at the University of Kent, and now I am educational consultant, and we suggest many things, and hopefully we can help you in the personal statements, and we can give our suggestions. And thank you, Emma.
Fantastic, thank you. You've covered everything that I would have done in terms of top tips, so it's great to have it's obviously your input. Obviously, being a former student, you know all of this in terms of having to have done it before, and some really important tips there for students to kind of follow and hopefully take on board. I think that one of the key things as a university, what we have been finding sort of many students do sort of slip up on are things such as LJ said, making sure that the personal statement is not copied, plagiarized, or taken from other sources. So making sure that it's yours, it has to be personal to you. So try to avoid working on it with your friends, because obviously sometimes that, ideas can sort of copy over between the two of you, and you don't want to let any sort of type of plagiarism sort of affect your application to your universities. Don't take the risk of, looking at templates online and trying to use them. It's really not worth it. You don't want to sort of risk, affecting your application negatively because you decided to sort of take a shortcut with your personal statement. And the one final thing I just definitely want to do in terms of top tips, I know it's important, obviously, when you are writing a personal statement, to showcase kind of your interest in your chosen subject area. This is particularly relevant for undergraduate students who are applying to multiple universities or multiple courses. It's important to remember that you should avoid mentioning specific universities or courses directly. The main reason for that is that if you're applying to multiple universities, if you say, I want to apply to the University of Kent, other universities would see that in your application. So it doesn't come across well when they start seeing that you've written a personal statement for another university. So try to keep it general. So if you are applying to multiple universities, just think about sort of the subject area as a whole. So I want to study computer science because of X, Y, Z, rather than saying I want to study computer science, a bachelor's at the University of Kent because of so-and-so. So really try and keep it general and try to avoid using specific university references if you are applying to multiple institutions. So I want to sort of finish off by saying there is lots of information, lots of resources that students can go to and call upon when they are looking to do their personal statements. So on the University of Kent website, we have lots of information and some tips about writing your personal statements. And again, on Ucas, which I mentioned right at the beginning, is not just an application system. It is a really good library of online resources for guidance and some top tips on writing statements as well. So that's a really good place to head to get some more general tips and some guidance on writing the effective statements. The other thing to bear in mind as well is if you do have any questions after today, please do feel free to reach out to the University of Kent. Last weekend we just had our latest virtual open day, and there will be more planned early next year. So do keep an eye out on our events page on our website, because not only are the virtual tours and open days a really good chance for you to meet academics from your chosen field, but also admissions members of staff are also attendants in these virtual events. So if you do have questions about your application, unsure about what to include in your personal statement, coming along to one of our virtual tours or open days is a really good way to actually speak directly with the admissions team to get their advice on what areas that you're looking to get help with. We also do have lots of options for you to be able to have one-to-one video chats with the admissions team. Again, having a look on the website. And if you do want to have more information, you can certainly do contact us within the international recruitment team as well. The QR code on the screen takes you to our information page, so you can sort of sign up to receive alerts. But if you do have any sort of specific questions about your application, about courses, or anything to do with the University of Kent, then please do reach out to us on that email on the screen. What we will do in the chat is that we will share not just my contact details, but also Oljay's contact details as well. So if you do want to have any specific questions about the university or want to get further advice about sort of what it's like to be a student at Kent, please do feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to provide any kind of assistance that we can. Okay, let me just stop the screen because I think that is everything. Yes. Okay, perfect. Well, that's all the slides that we had. I'm sure you're relieved to hear that. I'm sure there's probably been lots of questions in there. So I think what we'll do is head straight there and see what we have. Okay. So I'm just going to start at the top. Okay. And Oljay, I'm just going to point some of these questions to you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Right. So the first question is about English language, and can they get conditional acceptance letters if they can't get an IELTS score?
And they can get the conditional offer if they don't have IELTS score. However, they need to submit IELTS scores until the certain dates. And if they achieve the IELTS score earlier, it is much better to accept. For example, sometimes we have some specific opportunities. And since I study at the Kent Business School, and it has early bird discount, for example. And if you accept your offer till March, for example, and you can get the 10% off and as early bird discount. That's why if you achieve your IELTS score earlier and getting acceptance earlier, it's much better to get your schedule for the University of Kent.
Yeah. And particularly with sort of English language, I mean, the good thing about Turkey at the moment is that there are lots of tests that are readily available. So if you can't find an IELTS test, then having a look at the alternative test providers such as Pearson or TOEFL might be a suitable alternative for you. Yeah. But as Oljay said, you don't have to have taken an IELTS or a language test before you apply, but it's important to try and do one as quickly as you can, just because it's always good to kind of get these things done as quickly as possible, really. Yeah. So the next question going down is about, there's a couple of questions actually about employability. And I know, Oljay, you had personal experience of this here at Kent through sort of the employability schemes that we have. And in particular, sort of, you know, placement opportunities and sort of that sort of stuff. So I'll hand over to you firstly to talk about that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it has a chance to get work placements, and you can get your master or undergraduate, and after that you can work in certain places. And University of Kent has many partnerships with the companies. That's why it's possible. But you need to, in your application, you need to clarify everything, and you need to mention you want to get job placement, and University of Kent is supplying this one. And I didn't use this opportunity, but many students would like to use this opportunity at this time. But you can call more.
Yeah, definitely. And I think it's definitely worth remembering that many of our programs, both undergraduate and postgraduate, do offer placement years or year in industry as part of the degree itself. So whether you want to have that experience as part of your degree or whether you want to do it sort of afterwards, there are lots of options available to you. We do have a dedicated careers advisory service here at Kent that provides lots of resources and guidance for students. And in particular, looking for jobs, I think that's what the question mentioned as well. You know, the resources available at the careers advisory service is not just available to students. So once you have graduated, you can still use their resources sort of a few months after you finished your course. So it doesn't automatically end once you have finished your study. So it's important to remember that they can provide you with lots of assistance after you have graduated as well. The other thing to bear in mind, as Olcay said, that many of the academic schools we have here do have lots of strong links with different industries. So whether that be HSBC, Warner Brothers, GlaxoSmithKline, lots of local governance, lots of charities, financial sectors as well. So whatever your interest is, definitely kind of keep that in mind. If they do offer the placement year as part of your degree, definitely do that. I can't stress enough, it's such a great opportunity. If it doesn't come as part of your degree, don't worry, there are still lots of opportunities for you to get that experience through the Careers Advisory Service. Okay, so the next question is about the GPA requirement for master's programs. So usually for students from Turkey, it's usually a final GPA of around 2.7 out of 4. That's kind of the minimum that you should be looking to get. There are some degree programs that have a slightly higher entry requirement. So you might need to achieve around sort of 2.8 or even up to 3 out of 4, depending on which course you select. And the other thing to bear in mind as well is that certain programs do have some requirements in terms of subjects experience. So, for example, if you're looking to study one of the computer science programs, they might ask you to have a background in programming, for example. In psychology, I know many of the postgraduate programs do ask students to have a background in psychology or another similar social sciences subject. So again, look on the course pages because it gives you information not just about the GPA requirement, but also about if you do need to have any subject background as well. It's so important to look at that to make sure that you meet those requirements too. Another question about language and if they don't meet the language requirements, do you still have a chance of getting accepted? So I'll fill that one. So just to very quickly, if we do have minimum standards you do need to have for language proficiency. If you do fall slightly below the minimum entry requirement for that course, then the options are to either to retake the test, which I know many students do look to do, and it is something that's a viable option for many. Alternatively, the other option could be looking at programs such as our pre-sessional English programs. So here at Kent, we do have our own English language pre-sessional courses that vary from about 6 weeks to 12 weeks in length, depending on what your current IELTS score is. So if you would prefer to do a pre-sessional courses, then have a look on our website. There's lots of information about the pre-sessional programs. They generally start in around sort of May time. So it very much depends on your IELTS score, which pre-sessional you would be eligible to apply for. But definitely have a look at that if that's something that you need to sort of factor into your application. The next question is from Merv, and they want to know about, do they need to submit a letter of intent? If yes, what should be included? So in terms of kind of the documents, the letter of intent is not something that we necessarily ask for. As we mentioned in the presentation, some of the main documentation is obviously kind of all of your qualifications, your references, they play a really key part, and your personal statement. So those are the key mandatory documents that you need to provide. And whatever, what you include in your letter of intent should be covered in your personal statement. So that should cover sort of that element of your application. Moving down, paid internships while you are applying. So I know for all international students who are studying here in the UK, your visa will allow you to work up to 20 hours per week on a part-time basis whilst you are studying. So you can do paid positions whilst you are studying. And in fact, many students do that. Sometimes it's a good way to supplement their income, but also, you know, work experience is a really good way to get some valuable kind of knowledge whilst you are studying as well. In terms of internships, as both Olcay and I mentioned, internships and placement opportunities are available through many of our courses, particularly sort of the placement years in the year in industry. Often they are salaried positions, so you would be earning a wage whilst you are doing a placement year, for example. But there are some internship opportunities that are voluntary as well. And I know that the Careers Advisory Service do offer voluntary experience through internship opportunities as well. So it very much depends on the opportunities available and where they are working, where they are operating in terms of industry. Okay. The next question I'm going to hand over to you, Olcay, not just as a former Kent student, but also an education consultant as well. So you know, what program is the University of Kent most known for?
All right. And I would say, yeah, and many programs actually, but I would say the schools and law school and psychology, business and politics, architecture, and these things are quite important, and also literature, and these things are quite popular at Kent, and we get many demands for these programs. And maybe you can add some things, Emma, but these are the most known programs.
Absolutely. And the good thing about our programs, both at undergrad and postgraduate level, is there's a really wide range of subject areas. So I know one of the unique things about Kent, which you might not find at other UK universities, is there are certain subjects that are not just delivered at our UK campuses, but we also have dedicated postgraduate campuses in Europe as well. Yeah. So in particular, we have a campus in Paris and in Brussels, which operate sort of a lot of specialist programs that look at things such as international relations, the law programs, which I know, as Olcay said, are very popular for Turkish students. So there is a little bit of kind of, there are some options to look at when you are thinking about your location of study, and actually being located in Brussels at the Brussels Centre is a really great place to do your postgraduate study in those particular subject areas. So there are lots of options available for students, so definitely have a look at that. So I think we're coming to the last few questions. So the next question is about scholarships. Should I sort of, I'll take that one. So in terms of kind of scholarships here at Kent, we don't offer any fully funded scholarship, but what we do have is a number of scholarships that contribute towards the tuition fee. So for example, we have the International Student Scholarship, which offers around £3,000 towards tuition fees. And this is available to both undergraduate and postgraduate level for international students. So it's particularly for undergraduates. I know sort of scholarships that are not readily available in certain sort of parts of the UK universities. So actually having an undergraduate scholarship is really, really a good thing to be able to offer. But many of them are tuition fee contributions. I know that a large number of our academic schools also have their own bursaries. So for example, the Kent Business School offers bursaries from £3,000 to £5,000. The law school potentially up to £8,000 to £10,000, depending on which program you select. So it very much depends on sort of the subject you're looking at. When it comes to our scholarships, most of them will open around January time. So it's definitely worth having a look from January onwards to see what scholarships are available. One of the key things, and I cannot stress this enough, is that all of the scholarships will have early deadlines. So it's important to make sure that if you are applying for scholarships, that you meet the deadlines that are on the individual page on the website. So for example, for the International Student Scholarship, you have to have an offer by a certain point in order to be in contention for the scholarship. So again, it's not just, sometimes it's not just a case of applying to Kent. You actually have to have an offer for your course in order to be considered for the scholarships. So really do have a look at the eligibility and the application details on the scholarship pages, because it's really important to make sure that you meet all of those requirements when you are looking for scholarship funding. If you are looking for fully funded, perhaps looking at outside sources might be a good alternative. I know programs such as Chevening, the British Council, they do offer a number of scholarship funding opportunities for Turkish students. So having a look at them might be worth doing so as well. So you need a little bit of research in terms of finding out what organisations offer scholarships to study here at Kent. Another quick question about English language. Duolingo is something that we accept at the moment. I know it is something that we allowed during the pandemic, because obviously the availability of IELTS and other language tests were affected because of the pandemic. Duolingo is currently accepted, but definitely just keep an eye out on the English language pages, because that is updated regularly. So when you are thinking about booking a language test, do check the language pages on the Kent website just to make sure that you take the test that is eligible at that time. What I'm going to do, I'm going to include the links in the chat so you can at least see them. Let me just pull up the website for you. So this is the, go back. This is the English language pages here. And it's definitely worth having a look at those to make sure that the test that you want to take would be eligible. And this is the postgrad as well. And what I'll also do is include a link to this is a really good page as well on our website. So this is our sort of Turkey country page, which provides a lot of information, not just about English language, but also about academic requirements in terms of the degree equivalency as well. So there's lots of information about how to kind of convert your Turkish qualification into sort of the UK equivalency to make sure that you meet the entry requirements for your course. And the other page, which you definitely should be aware of, is the scholarships page. I know it's something we've spoken about a lot. So what I will do here is provide you with the scholarships finder. And it's a really easy website to navigate. You just filter the list dependent on your study area, your subject that you want to do, and it brings up all of the different scholarship opportunities available to you. Last couple of questions. Sports management master degree. Do we do that?
Yes, we have, and also it's called sport management and BA programs, and you can apply for it, and definitely. And for the conditions and general conditions, and as Emma and me mentioned, and generally we require references and also good GPA and also a transcript, and it's very good. It should be very good personal statement, and these things are quite important to cover. And your passport, your IAS, and the general requirements are better. And if you have any achievements and any maybe medals and anything, and you can add and to be accepted for the university, because it's quite strong in sport management as well.
Definitely. And the next question is from Fusin, who's asked about the references, how to include them on your application. So when it comes to referee details, you will be asked to provide them on the online application form. So you'll need to provide just their name, how they're known to you, and their contact details. And what will happen is the application system will automatically send them a message asking them to provide their reference to support your application. So they will be contacted by the University of Kent. The second question to that is, if your GPA is slightly below the entry requirements for your undergraduate program, would there be a chance of getting accepted? So one of the good things about the University of Kent is that we're generally quite flexible when it comes to entry requirements. So if your GPA is half a point or a point below the minimum entry requirements, there may be some flexibility in terms of allowing you to enter that course. particularly when you look at things such as, your experience. So any involvement in extracurricular activities. Do you have any relevant work experience? So all of these things that the admissions team will look at, as well as your academic qualifications. So we have had instances in the past whereby students are below the GPA requirement, but because they have been involved with other activities, they've got good voluntary experience, for example, we have been able to give them entry onto that course despite having a slightly lower GPA. So I wouldn't let that sort of put you off applying if you are just below the entry requirements. My advice is, if you do have that, it's always good to make sure you have lots of work experience and lots of activities that you've been involved with that will help to kind of counterbalance the slightly lower GPA, and that will definitely attract the admissions team when they're assessing your applications. And the last question we have is about, again, English language. I know we've spoken about this, and someone's asked about, does TOEFL is accepted? So yes, what I've done in the chat, I've just sent the links to the English language pages. So please do have a look at that. It's got information about not just IELTS, but also TOEFL and Pearson as well, and the different scores that you need to meet depending on what level of course you're studying. So please do have a look on the English language pages. So I think we've covered all of the questions. There are quite a few in there, and I know there are some questions in the chat. So hopefully we've been able to cover everything. OJ, I think you've left your contact details. I will just put my email in here as well.
Sure.
So please do feel free to reach out to either of us if you do have any questions about anything we've discussed today. So your personal statements, your applications, applying to Kent, or anything else to do with kind of your courses here, please do feel free to reach out to us. And thank you very much for joining us today. I hope you've enjoyed it. We've certainly enjoyed meeting you all virtually and sort of telling you a little bit more about the Kent application process, and I hope you found it useful.
Thanks so much for everyone, and goodbye.
Yes, thank you very much for the great presentation, Emma and Olcay Bey. It was a really informative webinar for the attendees, and you covered all of the questions. Thank you for your answers too. Also, I would like to thank the participants in Turkish as well. Katıldığınız için teşekkür ederiz arkadaşlar. University of Kent ile ilgili diğer sorularınız için chat kısmında paylaşılmış olan mail adreslerinden Emma ve Olcay Bey'e ulaşabilirsiniz. Aynı zamanda linkleri incelemenizde faydalı olacaktır. Ayrıca sizi alttaki webinarımıza da davet etmek isteriz. Thank you very much again. It was a pleasure to have you in IEFT Talks.
Thank you very much. Stay safe, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.